people who are in the relational cohort or were in the relational cohort may know some of the theory. So if any of that is familiar, then just bear with us for those few minutes. I just really try to find a balance with giving some sort of overview to those that are new to it and those that have been. So I am going to just, I'm hopeful that you will appreciate the way that I've reframed some of what you already know, just to make it quickly accessible, and how we can actually do this quickly and, you know, get some of the main elements across quickly. What we're going to do also during the flow is I will go between a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation. There will be breakout rooms where you will go into groups of around 3, and I'll give you a specific task that will be around the work that I'm presenting. And then we will reconvene and just see some of the insights that you gain from that, and you know, just some of the takeaways as we end in an hour. Just a technical note, we are recording this meeting, and 2 things to note about that. If at any point anybody is uncomfortable, you just let me know, and you can even let us know privately. And we are happy to stop recording. And at the end, anybody can also feel free to let us know if they're uncomfortable with us sharing what happens here, because we do put this on, we will be putting a lot of these on our website for people to access. And if anybody's not comfortable, just let us know and we won't do that. So nobody has to feel that they've been put in a corner about the recording. Okay, is that good? All right, so what I want to start with is so we can all see each other still. And we have Noah as well, who has joined us, who was just graduated in SEC4. I don't know if it's intentional. No, we can't see you. So just so that you know that. Okay, so there we go. Hello. All right. So what I want you to do, just very quickly type in your chats. The first association you have when I ask you about working relationally in a virtual world. Just quickly, what associations come up for you? Yep. 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 Okay, awesome. Right, that's going to be part of this. Good. Limitations and opportunities. Right. Right. Okay, lovely. So you can also see there that if I just asked you, and we're not going to do this, but if I'd asked you just to talk to me about relationships and what your associations, I think the language around it would probably have been a much more wholesome and positive, and, you know, less about the challenges related to us being able to interact over this sort of framework. All right, so I'm going to now just share my screen, and we're going to go through a quick overview about some principles of relational work, and then I'm going to actually break into breakout rooms, and I want you to practice it with each other, and then we'll see what insights we can gain from that. So let's just share screen, and let's just go. All right, you can all see that? Okay, and play. Okay, we're not going to spend about 15 minutes on this, but we'll go in and out as you need. Okay, so the topic is about staying relational. Staying relational and deepening relationships in a virtual world. And the basic assumptions that we're working off here is number one, and this is something that I believe in, it's something that we teach, growth at its best. To be human is to be relational. And what we're saying is that this conversation isn't about how this new reality allows us to use relationships to get something else. We're not looking at the instrumental nature of relationships, acknowledging that it can be there. In other words, I'm meeting you because I want you to give money. I'm meeting you because I want you to come to my synagogue, my camp, or whatever it might be. We're really looking at more of the intrinsic value of our relational work. And really the basis for that is that to be human is to be relational. And it gives us insights. We're able to experience other people, which gives us emotional stability and empathy. It helps us acquire social skills, develops intrinsic motivation. These are just a few. It can be, there are a lot of advantages to, the way that we are relational. And it allows us to enjoy moments when we just take a walk with somebody or experience something together, even without the learnings, just the experience of doing it together, having the shared experience is in and of itself valuable. And one of the claims that I'm going to be putting forward today, and what I want you to think about, is that we actually are entering into a period of new social norms. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an example about this, and I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. The example I'm going to give is I was thinking the other day of a normal day at work where I have a meeting in the morning, and somebody comes to the office. I meet them at the door. We walk into the cafeteria coffee area. We get a cup of coffee together. We're chatting to each other about our lives, about whatever's going on in our realities. And then off we go into the meeting. We still chat for a few more minutes. And then we have our meeting. Then I walk the person out. We say goodbye, give a hug, I give a handshake, whatever it might be. That would be like a normal interaction in my day to day. Now I see you all on Zoom. So where's the shake of the hand? Where's the walk to the coffee? Where's that little interaction along the way? And what I'm saying is not just that we now have to all bring coffee together so that we can recreate what was and feel like what was. The claim that I'm going to be making and what I'm going to be asking you to think about, especially in your breakout rooms, is that we're going to have to start developing new social norms about what those experiences of intimacy look like, what welcoming looks like, what developing self-confidence and self-esteem through relationships looks like, what empathy looks, all of these things that we kind of just had a natural way of doing it in our normal environments. We actually have to think differently about what that looks like today. And what that looks like is something I'm going to be talking about in a few seconds, but we actually need to start thinking differently. So what does welcoming look like when you don't have a handshake, cup of coffee, a hug, and just that informal few seconds while you walk with each other to the room? And the answer to that is not to recreate it artificially, but we need new habits, new practices, and we need to develop a new way of being relational when I don't know if there's going to be a day after. This might be, morphing into something when our new, as we get used to this, takes on its own life. All right, so back to the screen, to the presentation, and so we're looking at 1 second, and right. So what I want to do is. The relational people may recognize this in a different form, but what I'm going to make the claim for is that in all our social interactions, in our relational moments, and I want you to just picture for the moment that the focus of this webinar is about relational moments and about social interactions. This can help a little bit about how do I teach content better. It might help with skill acquisition. It can be useful for that, but I'm going to ask you to focus on how this helps you in your relational work, in your relationships. And there are 3 things that I want you to think about when thinking in every single relational moment will have these 3 elements to them. And these 3 elements are all present. And once we have them in the right way to acting together, then we will achieve the relational moments that we want to achieve. And what are these 3 elements? taking into account what is going on around us, what is going on between us, what is going on with us. And once we have a diagnosis of these three elements playing out together, then we can say, so now what can I do? And that's what this is going to be about, and that's what I'm going to actually ask you to practice and do a little bit later on. Okay, so what is going on around us? So in M squared language, we've been calling this thirdness, but don't worry too much about that. What is going on around us? Well, first of all, there's a pandemic going on around us. There are virtual environments going on around us. Harry is with us because we need to have multiple hats. When we are on Zoom and when we work together, there's been a meshing of all our different environments. So I'm a father, professional, a husband, a friend. I'm a lot of things together while I sit at my table and try and be on a Zoom call. So we're trying to wear multiple hats. These are all external influences on us. There are cultural influences. All of a sudden, the new, I'll just tell you, might be halachic issues around, the way we traditionally are able to do a lot of things changes. A lot of uncertainty around economics, our jobs, our health, our professions, our routines gone out the window. What is that anymore? And power dynamics may have changed, and sometimes even for the better. Hierarchies may be different, gender norms may be different in today's world. So there are a lot of these external influences that always play themselves out on each relational moment. And the point of the takeaway here is that there are millions or thousands of different goings on around us. The important thing is that in any specific relational moment, what is the one that is the most telling or the most present that I need to take into account? And we'll look at examples of that soon. Okay, what is going on between us? So between us, looks at the space between us. What's going on between us? Empathy, mutuality, fear, visibility, intimacy, hostility. These are the things that we normally, take for granted that's going on in the space between us. And you can all think of relationships or relational moments where you've had where all of a sudden it just felt that the two of you were in complete sync and there was complete harmony, mutuality, reciprocity. Or sometimes it's hostility, you're suspicious of each other. And it's not just about you, it's kind of the space between two people takes on its own form. And it's about understanding that space that's going on between two people. And the third is what's going on with us. And that's really about our character. How are we present? How are we present and how are we experiencing the other person's presence? And this is about integrity, courage, humility, honesty, suspicion, anger, frustration, humor, and it's about the way that I am in any given moment. And these three different elements of what's going on around us, what's going on between us, and what's going on with us, and how we each present are present. The claim that we're making is that it's present in each relational moment. And if you can understand these three elements playing themselves in a relational moment, it can actually help you shift it in ways that it makes it to the kind of relational moment that you want, or the kind of relational interaction that you want. And what I'm going to do now very quickly is just play this out for you in a quick example. So here is an example that might seem familiar to some people around what's going on with us today. So I'm not sure if I don't think I muted you, so you can just unmute or just raise your hand. Have a look at that. Picture in front of you and just say, so if you had a look at that and you had to think of it in relational terms, so number one, what do you think is around us? Right? If you have a look there, what's around us? Right? What would be the influence on that specific interaction? So 1 second, let me just see in the chat here. We're all learning how to be really self-sufficient in all these different tools. And now I've lost your chat. Hold on 1 second. So I'm going to find chat. So, right. By us, you mean me. Right. What's going around me? Right. Germs. Correct. Germs are around us. So the germs are influencing that. In that specific case, the germs are influencing that interaction. So in that case, when the germs are impacting it, What's it? What's the space? How would you describe the space between the two people there, or the groups of people and the person with the mask? Fear, don't make me sick. Right. Tension. Unnatural. Right. What else? Anything else? All right. Somebody actually, I showed this to somebody else. Said, absolutely. This is the internal. Somebody actually said, I didn't see it so much. Somebody actually put out their caring because they're keeping people away because of concern. The trouble is the body language of the graphic doesn't really allow us, which is what's going between them doesn't look like caring. It looks more of, so how would you describe the space between the group of people and the person with the mask? What would it look like? Rejection. Right. What else would it look like?
Can you put it back up?
Sure. One second. Share screen. One second. Let me just find it. There we go. You can see that.
I think you have to share your screen again.
1 second. Let's try that again. There. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. So how would you describe the space between them?
Not 6 feet.
Not 6 feet. Distance, protection, self-disconnection, a wall. Right, and like stay away. Right.
Things are on hold. Maybe
right, suspicion, hostility. The space between them does not look friendly. How would you describe the character of the person with the mask? Just the way your experience of it. How would you describe their character? Anxious, could be caring, right? Right, exactly. All right, so now my question is like this. If you wanted to kind of make that more of a relational moment, what would it take to shift that so that our experience of it, the way we look at it, or the people themselves could have a more relationally positive experience out of this interaction? What could shift? How would we be able to do something that would shift our experience of that relational moment? Any ideas? Right, lower the hands. What else? Smile with your eyes, exactly. Disclaimer, exactly. All right, everything you've put there, begin by saying hello, right? All these are elements of character that turning around and taking a suspicious moment and saying hello, introducing a different way, the way that I am present can actually shift this, 2 arms out. That's right. So the way that I can do this is actually through my character, through being a little bit more, let's say, assertive or confident or positive or whatever it might be, honest. You can actually shift that so that the experience of that is a positive one. Okay, what I want to do is I want to go into the next slide just to carry on just showing you this. And that's a few weeks ago. No, some of you may have been on it, those who are on Rhoda's Shiva call. I don't know if you knew, but her mother passed away. One of our mentors for the SEC groups. So it was my first ever Zoom Shiva. So I'm sure some of you have been, unfortunately, on a Zoom Shiva. And I took this as an example of a good relational moment that was virtual. And I'll explain why. We were all there for a Shiva. So the influence around us was death. And we were paying a Shiva call. That was what was going on around us. What was going on between us was very intimate and caring and sharing and mutual, and people felt, she felt visible, we felt visible, and we all felt present in a very honest way. And I wanted to look at that because in addition to the outside influence also being around Shiva, and that was the context, the purpose of us being there was very clear. That's also an external influence. Why we were there was very clear. And because that was very clear, it also allowed us to be present in the way that we wanted to be present. So people who wanted to speak could speak, people who wanted to just listen could listen, people who wanted to write in chat could do that. There were all different ways for people to be present. I just felt that if we had to look at a good example of a virtual relational moment, this was a good example for me in the way that all these different elements were present at the same time, and the relational experience there was a very positive one. Okay, so what I want to do now, first of all, I know this is a really quick overview of these main elements, but I do want to now, hopefully, what I want to do is for you to take an experience and in breakout rooms, and we're going to do this for, let's say, till 1:45. So that gives us around 18 minutes. So for 18 minutes, if we can do a breakout room, you're going to be divided into groups of 3 or 4, no, around 3. And what I want you to do is choose one person to give a scenario of a relational moment that they're experiencing now that's a challenge. It can also be, by the way, a positive one that you're experiencing now or a challenge, and work it through those 3 people. And the questions you should be asking are, in that challenge, what's that external thirdness? What's influencing it? That's the kind of the elephant in the room. What's impacting it in a way that's hard for me to be relational? What's the space between the 2 people or the groups of people like? How am I present? How am I experiencing them being present? And then what's the to-do? How can we actually shift one of those 3 elements in an intentional way that can make it more relational? Okay, is that clear? Wait, let me just stop this. Is it clear? So my one concern with this is that you all have an understanding of what these 3 different elements are. So what I am going to do is I'm going to hop from group to group as well, just to see that people, if they're clear about it. One of the things that I'm going to ask, and especially the people who are more familiar with the language, is that, you know, just also think in terms of what new social norms could look like here. This isn't just about us, you know, how do we bring in something that maybe we are familiar with, but, you know, what could we do in a way that makes us think, makes us relate to the virtual or the nature of our interaction the way that it is? What would it look like? All right, is that all clear? I will do that for around 18 minutes. All right, so I will see you in your breakout rooms. Haley, leave me on the main one and then you'll send me.
I have to go in a few minutes to a staff meeting, so maybe stick me in a group of 4 if it's not too late.
Okay.
I assigned you already, but it's okay. Don't worry. Okay, Stephen, I'll tell you what the group. Oh, I don't.
Hey, Miriam, can you hear? I'm not sure if she's on or not.
Okay.
All right.
So I'll tell you.
No, I'm not in a condition to be seen and interact, and I also have to sort of rush out soon. So I just wanted to hear your wisdom, but I don't want to.
Right.
Okay, that was a great introduction. Thank you.
Right.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
sorry.
Bye. Put me in a room with, let's see who's there. Put me in a room with SEC people, like Noah.
Yep. I'm sending you now.
And then I can come out. You staying here. When I come out, then you'll just leave. Okay.
Yeah. Is it working? There we go.
Okay.
Stephen, we were thrown out of our breakout room.
Yep. Thanks, Eric.
All right, so just some thoughts. How was that? Any new insights that you came up with? You know, how's this helpful?
We ended in a really interesting place, Noach and I, in which I was sharing that when my partner and I first started dating, we were long distance and we talked on a very deep level for a very long time instead of having, you know, what often happens in relationships in which touching is possible, like where physical like relationship builds really quickly. And so it was just interesting to leave in this positive note of like the opportunity for distance, actually building depth of relationship, versus where I started on the conversation where I was like, we can't create real relationships online. And so I'm really grateful for that kind of like internal shift of my thought process.
And what do you think facilitates that?
You. You helped push the conversation, but I think, you know, I started off by thinking about, my scenario was thinking about how in-person small group cohorts had been able to move online pretty well, but that the idea of building a virtual cohort of people coming together was going to be really hard to build relationship, and maybe the goal wasn't achievable. And part of it was actually being in the small group, in the breakout group, and having that conversation. And I actually think the other thing that helped, and Noach, you can chime in, is actually Noach was having a lot of problems with his technology, and kept having issues, which broke down some of that wall, right? That like the idea that we just went into this room and had this really serious conversation was removed because he had to move in his space and he got kicked off several times and I couldn't hear him. And so I think that also kind of helped pivot the conversation to something deeper, because we really were prioritizing our conversation, what we actually could say. If that makes sense.
Right. I'm going to go back to an early slide where I spoke about new social norms. And I think that one of the things about new social norms, and it's really weird to say this because it's very instrumental and technical, is that we are very intuitive in knowing what to do when somebody comes to our office. We go to the door, we know to go take them to coffee, we know to go. We aren't intuitive about this yet. So in the beginning, when 8 of us were online and we were waiting for other people to join and I was doing some of the technical stuff, we just looked at each other not sure what to do, right? We got to get past that, right? And that's because there are certain norms that we haven't quite figured out what's expected of us now. Do we chat? How do we chat? Who speaks? Who's on mute, off mute? I can't hear you. These are just habits and practices that we aren't quite sure what they are yet. And part of what's going on is that we actually having to develop new rituals and new norms and new ways of being with each other that can get past us, so that when somebody's there, we know what it means to open the door, have a cup of coffee and sit down and chat. And we haven't figured that out yet. And you know, I think that that's what this is. I don't know if people know what intimacy looks like online yet. You know, how we create, I'll just go off Melissa, what she was saying again, is that how does she build commitment that people feel that they can opt in and they're going to be present when they're new to a cohort and the only medium she has is this one, right? And so, you know, the learnings about that is that how do you go in, make sure people are familiar with the technology, they know into breakout room, back out, report back. These are all basic habits that we are going to learn, because we're going to actually have to train ourselves what it means to be social in a little bit of a different way. And for those people that are thinking, oh my God, I just hope this ends so we can go back to what was, you know, I think that one of the things we're going to take away from this is that we actually have to learn how to be bilingual and be social in multiple environments today. All right, and that was my little speech. Any other insights?
Stephen, I just want to, what your point is, we're right now sitting in 2 rooms. I'm sitting in my living room, and I'm sitting here with you. And the question I need to figure out is, where am I? Am I with you, or am I with the wall that I'm touching and the person that's scanning across from me? Where am I more present?
Yes. Where are you more? So what's the answer?
The answer is that for now, at least at this point in time, in my evolutionary process as a Homo sapien in this type of environment, I'm more present in what I can touch and the person that's coming across from me than I am with you. So therefore, when we're in a room together at the beginning, we're just quiet until I take the cue to do what we need to do. But if somebody comes across from me, I'll respond far quicker to them than I will to you.
So I would actually challenge that back to you and say, that's your choice. These are choices you're making about how and where you're present. And I'll give you an example. How many people, you can just raise your hand, were interrupted by actual people during the course of this presentation? Right? And I can just tell you that my daughter came in here wanting a music lesson now, and she has to sort herself out. I can't be present for her now. She knows I have this call. And now, on the other hand, there's sometimes where my daughter will come in and I'll put her next to me and she'll also say hello to the group. And we have to figure out what it means to be present. So, I would say that to take that less as a statement of fact and more of a fluid about how and where you are present. Because that's a choice we're making about what it means to be present with people who are with us and online. And the thirdness, what's going on around us, our choice about what role that plays in our interaction is ours. We have control over this. We need to know it, name it, and we have control over it. I think. Other insights or thoughts or questions?
I think one of the things that I learned based on what Melinda was talking about was that right now we're being bombarded with opportunities to connect on a national or international level. At any period during the day, we can hop on a webinar about fundraising or environmentalism or whatever the topic is. But that doesn't substitute for the connections that we have with each other that we've already started, whether it's locally or in other communities. And so, for me, having started a new position, it gave me new thought to not assuming that the people that I'm wanting to connect with are somehow busy with another opportunity that maybe is more appealing or whatever, but that those local experiences or those experiences that I've already developed need nurturing, and that this provides a framework to do that. So basically to kind of have a way to shut that out or filter that out and not let that take the place of these important moments for us to connect and strengthen these connections.
Yeah. The Zoom is relentless. The opportunities are just non-stopping, and the time to actually be us and be present is not so simple, especially with multiple hats and the distractions. Yes. All right. Any other insights, questions?
I think
Abby.
I'm left with a question tied to this theme of expectations, which is like, how do I set expectations with the second party in our relationship around what I need? And also what's reasonable at this time, recognizing that that person is coming to our relationship with their own noise.
Right. So I'm going to reflect that back to you with what's going on around us is expectations. What's going on between us? What would you like the between us to look like? And what's going on with us? And I think that, in an example like that, one of the things that really comes to the fore is the way you introduce the expectations. So the role that has, how you make it explicit. And number two is the way your character is present for that. The way you introduce it, the way you set the boundaries, the way that you are. Because it might require honesty, it might require humility, it might require, the ability to name things often comes out of character. And one of the things that we've seen in in this whole relational process is how instrumental character is in this. And often it's just about doing some self-work about character. That here I need to be assertive. I need to make the purpose clearer. I think one of the hardest things for me and I'll go back to the example I gave where everybody's like sitting around, nobody knows what to do, is the ability to insert the purpose, the ability to insert the expectation, the ability to insert that little bit of concrete that takes what is something that's a little bit like amorphous and undesignated or unarticulated, and give it some sort of substance. Because when there isn't substance for people to connect to, then it's very hard to organize around it and make it substantive. So expectations is purpose, it's substance. So the ability to name it and work through it is bringing in the outside influence that needs to be present and having the character to introduce it. And then you see what that does to the relational moments, what's going on between you. And if it creates hostility, then what happened? If it creates intimacy, then let's build on that. But it's the whole time just trying to understand what's going on and then leaping for it. You're going for it, because relationships will move forward or they'll move back. It's very rare that you will just, stasis usually ends up being parav and not relevant. All right, 458. Any final comments? So I'm going to just say three things. I think it's three things that I just want to just end up with. I'm not going to share the screen with you with this, but number one is that I think as a tip is that I would move away from how are you. A friend of mine wrote a piece the other day about how are you. I think it's an irrelevant question. And I think that if we want to access people, we need to access the context where they are now. It's how are you today? How are you with relationships? How are you? How was it over Pesach? What was challenging now? Give me a word this. It really needs to be much more focused and specific. And we need to be less, we need to develop the habit of actually knowing how to access people where they are. Like, Parrot said, he's distracted. Parrot, how are you in your room today? I'm distracted. I've got this and this going on. It helps us connect. The second thing that I want to just mention is clear purpose for interactions. I think that that's really crucial. Number three is that we do need to develop the norms, the practices, the experiences that are relational in nature that apply in this environment. That take time. It will take time to develop. It's not so easy. And the final thing is that this is going to take patience. And I also think it's going to take belief in the fact that even in this environment, we are at our core relational, and we can do it, and our participants or learners can do it. We really need to believe in them to do it. Yeah. All right. Any comment? And maybe just one last word of bye or gratitude or whatever it might look like as we end. And thank you very much for participating. I really do appreciate seeing you all again and having you here. And hopefully we'll have the time to revisit this again down the line. Okay. All right. If you want to unmute and just say goodbye, then let's do that. And we can just wish each other well as we start our days for the most part, or move into that deathly afternoon time where everybody's tired and want to go just have some time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All the
Bye,
best,
everybody.
and we look
Thank
forward to
you.
seeing
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
It was wonderful. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay.
Thanks.
Fantastic.
Bye.
Job, Stephen.
It always gets much better when we can get into it. It's just,
Yeah.
find a way of maybe starting it without the erasure theory, because maybe that's just the process. It is what it is. So
Yeah.
but once we get into it and we can really start using real examples, then it just makes it much meatier.
I agree. I thought Melissa's coming right out of the breakout rooms, Melissa's example was really good, and I think it got people thinking about other things that they hadn't necessarily covered yet.
Yeah. All right, good. Thank you so much, as always.
You're welcome.
All right, and I saved
Okay.
the PDF